for the former Florida governor. Let's listen in.
Thank you all coming out. It is great to be here in Tampa with so many friends. Today we began a 4-day trip across Florida, South Carolina, and New Hampshire to tell the Florida story. The story of a big, diverse state, shaped by conservative, results-oriented leadership, reforming government, disrupting the status quo, challenging the special interests, restoring opportunity, refusing to compromise in the defense of freedom, lifting people up, not tearing them down, standing for everyone. Our story is about action, doing, not just talking, listening, not just lecturing. That is my story, and I'm so grateful and honored to have led this great state as your governor. I cannot tell you how much it warms my heart. Last year, I decided that I wanted to share my story with people across the country. So I wrote a book. Well, really, I didn't write it, not in a traditional sense. I emailed it. They used to call me the e-governor. For 8 years, I gave out my email address, jeb@jeb.org, and I gave it to anybody who wanted to talk to me. And email they did. People across the state told me their stories. Sometimes they asked questions. Sometimes they asked for help. I'll never forget one lady, an elderly woman in South Florida, sent me an email saying, "Governor, I've got a raccoon in my attic. What are you going to do about it?" So I called up the poor city manager from Delray Beach or one of these towns, and I said, "You have an elderly person that's got a raccoon in her attic. What are you going to do about it?" And by noon, that raccoon was out because we did have a servant's heart in Tallahassee. We got our team right on it each and every day when people had problems. And they always, Floridians always gave me their opinions. Man, they did not hold back. So I listened, and I did try to answer every email. It wasn't something I could have predicted at the start of my time in office, but this 8-year conversation with Florida shaped my governorship. So in writing my book, I used my email exchanges to tell the Florida story, to tell about the work to turn one of America's largest states into an economic engine where people could live, work, and raise their family in safety and security. With future and free from the heavy hand of government. That's what my book is about. And here's my shameless plug. The book is called Reply All. It's out today. You can get it on Amazon.com. It's pretty cheap. I hope you enjoy it. Rereading these emails reminded me of the challenges we tackled together and how much can be accomplished with strong conservative leadership. That is why I'm running for the presidency of the United States of America. You see, America's in a time of testing, at home and abroad. People are frustrated. People are worried about what the future holds for our nation, and I share that sentiment with them. Our economy has suffered its slowest recovery since the Great Depression. 1 in 10 able-bodied Americans can't find full-time work or have given up altogether. 1 in 7 Americans lives in poverty. 1 in 5 children is on food stamps. Barack Obama has given us $2 trillion of new taxes, but still managed to grow the national debt by $8 trillion, placing an immoral burden on working families and the next generation. The world is in turmoil as America withdraws from its responsibilities. ISIS has a caliphate the size of Indiana. In Syria and Iraq, they are indiscriminately killing moderate Muslims, Christians, Western journalists, anyone who stands in the way of their fanatic ideology. Red lines get crossed without consequence, unleashing a humanitarian crisis as 4 million Syrian refugees flee their native land. Vladimir Putin is siding with the brutal Syrian dictator. sending weapons to Iran, and continuing to defy the Western world in Ukraine. All the while, our president has negotiated an agreement that gives legitimacy to Tehran and does nothing to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions. For the first time in the history of Israel, its greatest existential threat has been created by its greatest ally. The 2016 election arrives at the juncture of all our failures abroad and restlessness at home. And soon, Americans will once again enter a time for choosing, a chance to set a new course for the country. As you may have heard, last week I was in Colorado for the third Republican debate. If you watched the debate, you probably came away thinking that the election's about sound bites, or fantasy football, or which candidate can interrupt the loudest. I'm here to tell you it is not. This election is not about a set of personalities. It's about a set of principles. It's about leadership. It's about the right vision to lead America through turbulent waters. After 2 terms of a divider-in-chief who has sliced and diced the electorate by class, income, grievance, and creed. So the choice we face is whether to summon the courage to give rise to a new era of possibility, or indulge this new age of cynicism. For all his promise, perhaps President Obama's greatest accomplishment is that of creating competing pessimisms. Members of his own party are left explaining how 2% growth, massive debt, and increasing global isolation are really the best that we can do. They speak in delusional terms about containing ISIS, about trusting the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, about how the presence of Russian soldiers on Syrian soil doesn't underscore the president's empty words and total inaction. It's not working. And all President Obama has left is the politics of divide and conquer, signing lawless executive orders that ignore the Constitution and launching partisan attacks, such as comparing his critics to Iranian hardliners. Wow. Amazing. Americans have had enough of our many president's straw man arguments and of a front-running candidate who blames a vast right-wing conspiracy instead of taking personal responsibility. And who declares roughly half the country as her enemy. If Secretary Clinton has her way, the next 4 years will be like the last 8. Gridlock, grievance, division, demonization. This is the only way they know how to win. On the issue of immigration, they've written a script for Republicans filled with grievance and resentment. Frankly, the last thing they want is a Republican challenger who takes them out of their comfort zone of forced indignation and PC platitudes. But let me be clear. Let me be clear. I'm not stepping into the role of angry agitator that they created for us, because it's not what's in my heart. And it is not true to the conservative cause. And in the end, that role is just a bit part in another story of another conservative loss and another liberal victory. That's their plan, and I'm not going to go along with it. But I truly fear the president has already succeeded in setting the trap for our party, bringing a new pessimism on the right. Some people on the debate stage talked of a country that was once great, but now is in dramatic decline. They say our best days are behind us. Look, let's be clear. Let's be clear. I acknowledge the difficulties and challenges we face, but I reject that kind of thinking. Not because I don't understand it, but because it is not true. There's an important place in politics for righteous indignation. Amen. But anger that leads to resentment without delivering results will take us down a path to perdition. In my heart, I believe America's best days are not behind us, but squarely in front of us, if we elect the right leadership. And as your president, I will fight every day with a reformer's heart. I will lead, and I will tear down the barriers that keep Americans from rising up and realizing their God-given potential. I will do so keenly aware of the problems that give rise to the deep frustration all of us share. Frustration over a porous border, workers' wages remaining stagnant, an ever-shrinking pie for families living paycheck to paycheck. This won't be solved with more talk. The answer isn't sending someone from one side of the capital city to the other. The solution won't be found in someone who has never demonstrated the capacity to implement conservative ideas. And you can't just tell Congress, you're fired, and go to commercial break. You have to bring people together to solve problems. The challenges we face as a nation are too great to roll the dice on another presidential experiment, to trust the rhetoric of reform over a record of reform. After 7 years of incompetence, corruption, and gridlock in Washington, we need a president who can fix it. I can fix it. After 7 years of historic cuts to our military, a foreign policy based on leading from behind, the emboldening of our enemies, and the isolation of our allies, we need a president who fixes America's standing abroad. I can fix it. After 7 years of massive deficits, historic debt, and a president who vetoes defense spending because he wants more reckless spending, we need a president who fixes our budgetary mess. I can fix it. I know I can fix it because I've done it. Yes, in Florida, we showed how strong hands-on leadership could make a difference in the lives of people. I gave out my email address because I wanted Floridians to know that their governor cared about them and wanted to help solve their problems. I remember emailing with an honor student named Kirsty Edwards, who couldn't pass the FCAT to graduate because of her disability. We listened and changed the law so Kirsty could get...
We've been listening to former Governor Jeb Bush come out at a campaign rally in Tampa of Revive. This is not a campaign about a set of personalities, but about a set of principles.
That's right. And he also said that I'm not stepping into the role of angry agitator because that's not what's in my heart.